合唱。ナモ阿弥陀仏。
ナモ阿弥陀仏。
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 ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the TSDBT Spring O-Higan service. Today we're going to begin with the chanting of Junirai, which if you have the Blue Denver service book is on page 79. It can also be found in the description below. Next, we will have the pledge read by Sensei Frank Miyazawa, also in the description below if you would like to follow along. Following that, we will have a talk in Japanese by Reverend Noritaka Imada. We will then have a talk in English by Reverend Caitlin Masher-Mays. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I hope your spring is so far going very well, whether you're in Colorado, where we're still waiting for that snow to melt, or somewhere else where you're already seeing the crocuses and starting to be able to plant your gardens. Either way, we're happy to have you, and we can't wait to see you next time. Thank you. Junirai. Keshu tenin shokugyo Amida senyo zokuson Zaihi mimeu anako Muryo bushi shuine Konjiki shinjo nyosen no Shamata gyo nyozobu Ryomoku jo nyaku shorenge Koga chodai midason Menzen enjo nyomangan Iko yunyo senichigan Shonyo tenku kushira Koga chodai midason Kannon chodai kanchuju Shuju meso shogon Nobuku gendo makeman Koga chodai midason Mubi muku koshojo Shutoku keuken nyokoku Shosari yakutoku jizai Koga chodai midason Jipo myomon bosashu Muryo shoma josandan Isho shujo gandhi kiju Koga chodai midason Kontai hoken shishoken
千言少女明大座おひざ上女線の子が将来みだそん自歩将来勝負し権限人図しあら戦後尊厳辱業子が将来みだそん小無常無我と薬女水眼伝よろ一種説法無名字子が将来みだそん依存無説無悪名薬無女になく道夫主任死心教依存子が将来みだそん依存無料法勉強無償主悪知識往生不体死亡大子が将来みだそん合戦依存苦毒寺修善無変如海水小逆前後少女者エッセ主願にしくどく平等正祭道恩母大
Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I shall carefully share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall be open-minded and act accordingly, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I shall share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life we have received, I shall live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who continues to emancipate all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
人参受け方し、今すでに浮く。仏法聞き方し、今すでに聞く。この身、根性においてどせずんば、さらにいずれの章においてか、この身をどせん。大衆もろともに、指針に参謀に帰依し、立てまつるべし。自ら仏に帰依し、立てまつる。まさに、願わくは主情とともに、大道を大下して、無常意を起こさん。自ら法に帰依し、立てまつる。まさに、願わくは主情とともに、深く共造に入りて、知恵海のごとくならん。自ら僧に帰依し立てまつる。まさに願わくは主情とともに大衆を通りして一切無下ならん。無常人人未明の法は百千万号にも相応うことかたし、我今検問し授事することを得たり、願わくは如来の真実義を下し立てまつらん。ナモアミダ仏。ナモアミダ仏。ナモアミダ仏。本日もデンバー仏教会 YouTube サービスへようこそのお参りでございます。今回はお彼岸の法要です。お彼岸とは、かの国と書き、お浄土、つまり悟りの世界のことを指します。この彼岸に対して、私たちがいるこの世界のことを、この岸と書いて、此岸と呼びます。つまり、今、この世界を生きている私が、悟りの世界であるお浄土へ生まれさせていただく命を、今生かされているということを喜ぶ日であるこのお彼岸、この法要をご縁として親鸞上人の見教えと阿弥陀仏のお慈悲の心を取り次ぎさせていただきたいと思います。ご三代として浄土和賛より親鸞上人のご和賛を挙げさせていただきます。十方未尽世界の念仏の主情をみそなわし、摂取して捨てざれば、阿弥陀と名付け立てまつると、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏。今現在、依然として人がなかなか集まることができない状況にあり、皆さんとご一緒にお寺に集まって仏法を共有することが難しい状況ですが、驚くことに私たち デンバー仏教会がこの YouTube でのサービスを開始してから先週でちょうど1年が経過していました。このような状況でも自宅のパソコンやスマートフォンからお勤めに参加でき、共に仏法に触れることができるのはとてもありがたいことであると深く感じております。仏教の言葉で、クエ一緒という言葉があります。これは、共に一緒の場所で集まるという言葉です。その一つの場所、その一緒の場所というのは一体どこなのかということですが、これは悟りの世界であるお浄土のことです。仏教の目的は、苦しみから抜け出し、仏のように悟りの境地に至ることです。今、ここに安置されている阿弥陀如来という仏様は、あなたを必ず仏にしますよという誓いを立てられた仏様です。それも、もしあなたが仏になれないのであれば、私も仏になりませんという誓いを立てられ、仏になられました。生きとし生けるすべての命をお浄土に生まれさせるというのが、この阿弥陀如来という仏様です。すると、じゃああの人もこの人も悪いことをしている人もいいことをしている人もみんな同じ扱いになるんでしょうかと疑問に思うかもしれません。しかし、阿弥陀如来から見れば、すべての命が平等であり、いい命も悪い命もないと言います。これが阿弥陀如来のお慈悲の心であり、私が悲しいときは一緒に悲しんでくださる。そして私が嬉しいときは一緒に喜んでくださる。そして、たとえ私が悪いことをしてしまっても、決して見捨てることなく、一緒に泣いてくださる。これが阿弥陀如来という仏様です。そうすると、じゃあ悪いことをどんどんしてもいいのかというと、そうではありません。たとえ悪いことをしないように生きているつもりでも、人間という生き物は他の命を奪って食べないと生きていけないし、外を歩いているだけでも小さな虫を踏みつぶしているかもしれません。そういう危ない存在であります。そんな命を生かされている中でも、仏法に触れ、仏の心に触れ、仏様のように誰かの悲しみを共に悲しんだり、誰かの喜びを共に喜んだりできる日を送らせていただきたいと思います。本日は尊いご縁をいただきありがとうございます。寛容は拝読のご文章にて。万代無知の在家始終の男女足らん友柄は心一つにして阿弥陀仏と深く頼み参らせてさらに世の方へ心を振らず一心一意にぶったすけたまえと申さん主上ばたとえ在後は人獣なりとも必ず弥陀如来は救いましますべし。これすなわち第18の念仏往生の誓願の心なり。核のごとく欠如しての上には寝ても覚めても命のあらん限りは称名念仏 うすべきものなり。あなかしこ、あなかしこ。ナモアミダ仏。ナモアミダ仏。ナモアミダ仏。ナンマンダーブ、ナンマンダーブ、ナンマンダーブ。ナンマンダーブ。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spring O-Higan service for the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube service series for Spring 2021. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. As is a tradition here at Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple, for our O-Higan service, I'm going to read the parable from our Dharma lineage master Shandao of River of Fire, River of Water, also known as the White Path. So please sit back and listen to the parable, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. This particular translation of it comes from the Kyogo Shinsho's translated Collected Works of Shinran, page 89. Further, I say to all who aspire for birth in the Pure Land, I will now present a parable for practitioners so that their Shinjin will be protected from attacks of wrong or non-Buddhist views of different opinions. What is the parable? Suppose a traveler is journeying 1,000 li towards the west, and suddenly along the way he comes upon two rivers in a single channel, one of fire extending southward and one of water extending northwards. Each river is 100 paces across, immeasurably deep, and endless to the north and south. Dividing the fire and water is a single white path, 4 or 5 inches wide. This path, from the eastern bank to the western bank, is 100 paces in length. Billows of water surge over the path, and flames sweep up to scorch it. Water and fire thus alternate without break. Now the traveler has already journeyed deep into a vast and solitary wilderness. There is no one to be seen. But bands of brigands and wild beasts lurk there, and seeing the traveler alone, they vie with each other to kill him. Fearing for his life, the traveler at once flees towards the west, and without warning, the great river appears. He reflects, I can see no end to the river, either to the north or to the south. In the middle, there is a white path, but it is exceedingly narrow. Although the two banks are but slightly separated, how is it possible to cross? Assuredly, this day I shall die. If I turn back, brigands and wild beasts will press closer and closer to me. If I run north or south, beasts and poisonous insects will contend with each other to attack me. If I venture on the path westward, surely I will plunge into the two currents of water and fire. There is no words to express the terror and despair that fill him at this point. He thinks further to himself, if I turn back now, I will die. If I remain here, I will die. If I go forward, I will die. There is no way for me to escape death. Therefore, I choose to go forth, venturing on this path. And since this path exists, it must be possible to cross the rivers. When this thought occurs to him, he suddenly hears the encouraging voice of someone on the eastern bank. O traveler, just resolve to follow this path forward. You will certainly not encounter the grief of death. But if you stay where you are, you will surely die. Further, someone on the western bank calls to him, O traveler, with a mind that is single, with right-mindedness, come at once. I will protect you. Have no fear of plunging into the grief in the water or fire. The traveler, having heard the exhortation on his side of the river and the call from the other, immediately acquires firm resolve in body and mind to decisively take the path, advancing directly without entering any doubt or apprehension. When he has gone but 1 or 2 paces, the brigands on the eastern bank call out to him, O traveler, come back! That path is treacherous and permits no crossing. You are certain to meet your death. None of us will address you with evil intent. The traveler hears the voices calling to him, but he gives no backward glance. Thinking only of the path, he advances forward with a mind that is single, and forthwith reaches the western shore, forever free of all afflictions. He meets his good friend, and his joy is boundless. This is the parable. So Shinran included this in his Gyogo Shincho, and it comes from Shandao, who is one of the Pure Land masters, the lineage makers of this Jodo Shinshu sect. And there's a really good breakdown that Shinran talks about in here. The eastern bank is the burning house that is the Saha world. The western bank is the precious land of perfect bliss. The brigands and wild beasts are treacherous familiarities. It's literally us. It's our senses. It's our hatred towards ourselves. It's our hatred towards others. It's our kleshes. It's our greed, anger, and ignorance. It's our bono. It is what we are. The wilderness where no one is to be seen. This is in a lot of ways the Saha world as well. Like, this is where we have a hard time seeing the world around us. In the white path, in the middle, 4 or 5 inches wide, is the pure mind that aspires to birth in the Pure Land. So whose mind is that? And why is it important? We're going to get to that. So this week, I kept having a word replay in my head over and over. Fukashigi. And it comes from, in this particular case where it was coming in my head, was coming from the Shoshinge. And the second line, Fukashigi ko, which literally means relying on the Buddha of inconceivable light. But Fukashigi in this use means inconceivable. And so when I was thinking about that word and then reading this parable from Shandao, I was thinking, why did Shandao write this? What is this parable actually for? And the conclusion I came to was Shandao wrote this because he had to put body, thought, word, his understanding to what it is we are all going through at any one moment in time. Because the reality of Amida's calling voice to us, that namu aspect of Namo Amida Butsu, that command coming from Amida to walk this path, to achieve liberation from the Saha world, that's Fukashigi. And the reason it's inconceivable, incomprehensible, is we are all selfish. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We're breathing, we're living, we are taking from everyone else. This is our existence. This is existence within the Saha world. We are selfish beings. And so for us, it's unimaginable that something could have this level of compassion. And that we can live in a world that is this compassionate. Because when we look around us, we don't see compassion like that because we are looking around at ourselves. These are our calculations that we see around us. It's not the Buddha's calculations. And so for us, we now have this doubt. How could anyone, any force, have the desire to free me from this without ulterior motives? And that's why we need something like Fukashigi, because we can't imagine that. As egalitarian as we want to be, as loving and equitable as we want to be, as open and amazing as we want to be, the problem here is it's we want, and we want it for reasons. So, one thing that's always bothered me about this, in this explanation from Shandao, the white path in the middle, the 4 or 5 inches wide, immense sentient beings, blind, passionate, greed, anger, is the pure mind that aspires for birth, and the Pure Land is awakened. That, I think, can be misinterpreted. Because that gives the idea that this is my mind awakening to my birth in the Pure Land. That this is my doing. That this is something that I am doing. Man, me, Caitlin, I ain't capable of that. And I never will be. I am a human being full of greed, anger, and ignorance. And so that white path that's laid in front of me, this is me following the path towards that commanding voice, I'm not creating the path. Amida is creating this path for me. That path is the Nembutsu, the Namo Amida Butsu. That is the command that is coming to us from Amida. And it is purely of great and deep compassion. This is the inconceivableness of our relationship with Amida Buddha, our relationship with the vow. We can't comprehend it. That's beautiful. One of the major fallacies of being human, one of the major problems with being human, is the fact that we think we know things. And my background before coming into the ministry, before becoming a Buddhist novice that I am, before studying and thinking I know something, and the more I study, the more I realize I know nothing, is I was a scientist. I worked in engineering. And one of the key things about science is scientific progression is not the discovery of what we know, but the discovery of what we don't know. It's, I imagine, much like sculpting, in that a sculptor gets a block of rock. The sculpture is not what is created out of the rock, but rather what is removed from it. So it exists in there, but only through the change in the rock. And so it's only through the removal of ignorance, the removal of rock, that something beautiful comes out of it. Our walk down the path towards Amida Buddha's Pure Land, towards the Namo Amida Butsu, and down this pathway of Namo Amida Butsu, is the slow removal of our ignorance. And the removal of that ignorance, and the then realization that I am doing this, and that I am a foolish being doing it, that is the path towards Shinjin. That is the Namo Amida Butsu. And I think this is what Shandao was trying to tell us, is we have to respond to that calling voice, the inconceivable, fukashigi, calling voice from the other shore, and follow down that path of Namu Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. And we are with our good friend on this shore, Shakyamuni Buddha, telling us all about this. Go, my friend, go. This is where you will be enveloped in that true compassion. And going down this path and letting others see you go down this path, sharing this path and sharing the love, compassion, and brightness that comes out of you from responding to that calling voice with Namo Amida Butsu will help others come that way too. This was not meant to be kept secret, was not meant to be kept from people. This is meant to be shared with everyone. So share it with me today. And thank you so much for coming to O-Higan service today on YouTube. I cannot wait to do this next year with you in person and give every single person watching this a hug, unless you don't want one, and then you get a high five or a fist bump. Please join me in responding to that calling voice from Amida Buddha in Gasho and say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.